Humanity lives its usual measured life. In the White House, major political issues are resolved, and outside of it, ordinary people make plans for tomorrow and do not even suspect what changes await them. But one single morning changes everything. For unknown reasons, all Y-chromosomes carriers suddenly die in the city. Simply put, all representatives of the male sex are animals, birds, and people. Among them is the president of the country. The only man who managed to survive is the young, useless illusionist Yorick Brown and his handheld capuchin ampersand. Regina Oliver should take the president's place in the event of an emergency. But unfortunately, during the incident, she was outside the country, and there is no news from her. Naturally, the absence of leadership leads to terrible consequences. Disorder begins in the city, and residents in panic roar the city, not understanding how to live on. In the White House, the tension also increases. The employees understand that in 2 weeks they will be in an ambush. The coal and clean water supplies will run out. Food will also not last long. Animals can no longer reproduce, and it is simply impossible to grow a sufficient supply in a short time. And this concerns not only one city. It will affect everyone. The reins of the government are taken by Senator Jennifer Brown. It is to her that the agent of the secret group of the president, Sarah Bergen, with the order number 355, sneaks in. The girl reports that she was sent here because of some real threat, but she did not have time to tell in detail about the new task. All this time, Yorick does not leave the apartment in order not to become a target for women. But the supplies gradually come to an end, and having left a note for his girlfriend, the man still decides to go on reconnaissance. At the same time, the senator sends Sarah in search of his daughter Hira, who never got in touch after the disaster. But Hira is not in a hurry to hide in a safe place. Instead, she comes to the location of the victims to help those in need, including the wife of her deceased lover. And after that, the girl returns to her friend's lair. At first glance, it seems that there are still surviving men in the city, but soon everything falls into place. These guys were born in a female body, and only thanks to hormones, they were able to change sex. Therefore, the unknown abomination did not affect them in any way. In New York, an evacuation begins, and heavy military vehicles drive around the city. Yorick has to hide so as not to get caught by the military, but still he manages to get into a local bar to leave another message for his girlfriend on the wall. Yorick still hopes that she is alive, and when he sees his autograph, his girlfriend will return home. Usually, the guy manages to remain unnoticed, but this time everything goes wrong. His capuchin runs away, and Yorick has to run after him. The restless amp goes down to the flooded subway and disappears in the dirty water filled with the bodies of the dead. Having overcome the dizziness, the guy decides to follow him so as not to lose his only friend. At some point, Yorick thinks that there is the same living man near him, but it looks like it was just a vision. Lighting a flashlight around, the guy sees nothing but dirty water. Having gotten out of the water, Yorick sneaks into the clothing store to change clothes, but there he fails to remain in the shade. The shop owners notice the naked guest and freeze from surprise. One of the women offers to capture the guy and give him to the authorities in exchange for a good bonus, but still, taking pity on the poor man, in the end they let Yorick go, handing him a set of clean clothes. Exhausted stress literally drives Yorick crazy. Rewatching the recordings on the phone, he remembers the day when the amp appeared in his life, and apparently, hearing the voice of the guy, Capuchin gets out of his shelter. The couple returns home, feeling completely safe there. But hearing the door open, Yorick realizes that he was wrong. A stranger breaks into the apartment, and he has to defend himself. Armed with a guitar, he hides behind a corner and fails to hit the guy. Sarah turns out to be faster and stronger. She pulls out a weapon from the guy's hand and a few hours later delivers it to his mother, Senator Brown. The pilots who brought Yorick to the White House are locked up. Sarah explains this by the fact that they have to rest after a long flight, but everyone understands that the matter is different. No one should know that the son of the new president has survived. Otherwise, this can raise suspicions in the plot and lead to even more disorder. Yorick himself is also not delighted with this situation. Having rested a little after everything he has experienced, he decides to look around, but the guy's curiosity almost leads him to failure. In an abandoned office, he is discovered by Marla, the widow of the deceased president. Jennifer and Sarah, who came in time, pretend that Marla has problems with her mind. At this time, Yorick manages to hide, but there is a threat over the conspirators, and Sarah insists that the guy needs to be taken out of the White House. The daughter of the deceased president is trying to find out what her mother saw that night. Jennifer assures the girl that it was nothing more than a hallucination, but Kimberly suspects that the post of President Brown is a lie. Jennifer Brown entrusts her assistants to find a geneticist who will be able to examine Yorick and find out what happened on the planet and why he and Cappuccino managed to survive. The president plans to bring the specialists here, but Sarah continues to stand on her own. This is too dangerous, and they must take the guy out of the city. The agent is ready to take on this dangerous mission, but this must be done as soon as possible. At the same time, a woman who has suffered comes to Israel. As soon as she opens her eyes and finds out that all the men on Earth have died, the woman declares that the post of the President of the United States should now be taken by her. Nora Brady, a former advisor to the president, is forced to leave with her little daughter Mackenzie. Left without means to survive and having lost her husband and sons, the woman barely manages to get herself together, but still decides to fight to save herself and her daughter. In the White House, they learn that Regina Oliver, the main candidate for the post of the president, is alive. This leads to a split among the servants. One part remains true to Jennifer Brown, and the other stands on the side of Regina Oliver and Kimberly, the daughter of the president. In this situation, Jennifer has to agree with Sarah and let her son go to a safer place. To this mission, the agent connects the pilots who brought the guys here, and as a motivation, she gives them heroic stars, promising eternal glory in case of successful execution. The only way to secretly get Yorick out of the building is a cart with bodies. The guy is trying to give up and come up with something else, but Sarah remains unyielding. They can't risk it, and Yorick will have to put up with it. The agent successfully takes the young man out and transfers him to the helicopter, but she is going to manage it herself. The second helicopter, on board of which only the pilot's girlfriend, must fly ahead as a distracting maneuver. But as soon as the planes rise to the right height and lose sight of each other, the escort helicopter loses control and crashes into a lot of burning debris. This brings Yorick to horror, and only Sarah remains calm, knowing that this is the price of silence for the female pilots. After a few hours on the road, Sarah and Yorick sit in the forest to get some rest. The agent can't stand it and asks the guy to undress. After a trip in a cart with bodies, he doesn't smell very good, and it would be better to wash the clothes before the further journey. Yorick's sister, Hira, goes in search of a safe place in the company of her half-man friend. Along the way, the couple enters a shop robbed by the marauders to try to find at least some food, but instead they find their frightened Nora and Mackenzie. After inspecting the girl's leg, Hira notices a serious infected wound, and she asks Nora to allow her to provide first aid so that they can move on. Wild robbers attack Sarah and Yorick's camp. The agent tries to distract them and lead them away, but in order not to risk it, Yorick puts on a mask and, waving a stick, scares the girls, afraid that they will break their plan. Unexpected guests leave, but the couple does not dare to stay in place. They get to the nearest city and exchange for a bike, taken from the helicopter generator, and a couple of grenades. But while Sarah inspects and checks the vehicle, Yorick, having forgotten about all the safety rules, runs away to a deserted place, deciding that he saw his girlfriend in the crowd. Bad. A stupid act leads the guy into a trap. He is surrounded by policewomen who tear off the mask from Yorick and find out his secret. Sarah has to intervene to protect her friend, and by beating him, she takes the guy away. But as soon as the free minute is given, Sarah stops the bike to bring the loser to his senses and remind him of the importance of the mission that he had just almost broken. Hira, her friend, and their new companion spend the night in a deserted women's shelter. The girl admits to Nori that her daughter has serious problems. She needs antibiotics, but pharmacies have long been plundered, as well as empty houses. Out of fear and helplessness, Nora goes outside so that her daughter does not see her tears. But there the woman faces a new test. Horses, who call themselves the hosts of the house, appear in the yard. And it seems they are not very happy with the uninvited guests. The hosts also find the other visitors very quickly. They take them to the stable to get rid of the excess mouths, but Nora notices something that can save them. One of the horsemen is injured, and Nora asks Hira to examine the girl and help her. The felcher tries to do something, but the bullet wound is too heavy, and there is nothing under the hand except scotch tape and a pair of rubber gloves. A few hours of surgery does not bring results. The girl is getting worse, and the leader of the female gang, Roxana, decides to end her torment. Contrary to the worries of Nora, Roxana turns out to be kind and understanding. She invites guests to stay overnight in their house and promises to give antibiotics that Mackenzie needs. And when the company follows the leader, Hira realizes that antibiotics are just a small part of the gang's stock. They own a whole shopping mall full of food. Sarah and Yorick continue to sneak into Boston to find the geneticist Ellison Mon. But at the entrance to the city, a couple is met by a checkpoint and a lot of soldiers armed with tear gas. Sarah offers to split up. She will distract the military while Yorick and his monkey go around the ambush. Getting acquainted with Boston colleagues, Sarah finds out that the absence of men in the world did not save him from crime in any way. A whole detachment of rebels constantly attacks Harvard, trying to get inside and find answers to their questions. The plan works. While Sarah is talking to the military, Yorick penetrates into some headquarters to hide from the threat. But there he gets into the hands of the rebels, risking being exposed. The guy is lucky. The rebels take him for a trance and let him go, telling him where he can find his people, get the necessary hormones, and hide. Finally, Yorick and Sarah find Allison Mon's apartment, and then her office in Harvard. The geneticist is not very pleased with the visit of strange strangers, but as soon as Yorick removes the mask, she immediately understands why they came. Mon understands that she has to study the guy and his cappuccino, but it is impossible to do this in Harvard. There is no equipment left, no samples for work. Therefore, she offers the only possible option to rush to San Francisco to use the laboratory there. Sarah agrees to another dangerous journey, but for some reason she secretly breaks the radio from Yorick, depriving him of their only opportunity to contact the president. The agent uses this breakup as an excuse to leave. She asks her friend to keep an eye on the geneticist until she finds another way to contact the White House. Meanwhile, among the politicians there are again disputes over the division of power, which does not concern everyone. One of Jennifer's assistants, Kristen, is getting sick, and she thinks she has lost her child. Only Uzi shows the opposite. Pregnancy continues to develop, and it is quite possible that a boy is developing inside. Sarah enters someone else's house, the owner of which turns out to be no less cunning than a secret agent. A fight breaks out between the girls, but when they still allow each other to speak, it turns out that both robbers work for the same organization. And they came here for the same thing, to find the owner of the house and shoot her. Having learned about the crash of the helicopters, Jennifer does not find a place for herself. But Kristen tries to calm the boss down. The search party reported that they found the bodies of only two pilots. Relief comes shortly. The president understands that most likely the accident was caused by Sarah, thus eliminating unnecessary witnesses, and she is scared. Yorick is in the company of a dangerous criminal, and it is not known what she will do to him. In the White House, they deliver Regina Oliver, who claims to be the president's post. Using this, Kimberly prepares a coup to get rid of the hateful Jennifer Brown and subsequently seize power. Allison Mon admits to Yorick that she is not sure about the success of the research. The girl does not know if they have enough resources to find the cause of the death of the man and reproduce their appearance. But no matter how it is, Yorick is waiting for difficult times. And he and his capuchin will soon become experimental samples. Sarah returns to the office and offers to move out. She lies to Yorick for some reason, saying that she allegedly talked to his mother and they have permission to go to San Francisco. The Trinity set off, not knowing that a military patrol is driving around the city with a photo of Sarah. But while the girls are waiting for a safe window between the gas supply, Yorick decides to visit the place that the rebels told him about. A community of people with a changed gender, in which he can take off his mask and not be afraid to show his male face. Sarah becomes furious with Yorick's next outing, but soon it becomes clear that the main danger is not the guy, but herself. The patrol comes to the community and shows everyone a picture of her. The company manages to escape from under the noses of the ghosts and hide in the church. Sarah has to admit that she has no connection to the White House, and she makes all the decisions on her own. Hira, her friend, and Nora, with their daughter, continue to live in Roxanne's commune. At first glance, it seems that the company has fallen into a real paradise. There is food, medicine, and security. But when Nora tries to take her daughter away from another gathering of radical feminists, Roxanne goes mad. She reminds her that she sheltered the guests, which means they must follow her rules and obediently listen to everything she says. Moreover, Roxanne tries to do everything to make little Mackenzie hate men and join their movement. Another such meeting interrupts the battle alarm. Women build barricades and, armed, stand up to protect their supermarket. Enemies are a group of poor women with a little girl. Roxana goes to meet them, but she no longer accepts strangers into the community. Even the child does not show sympathy for her, and she drives away the refugees, refusing to help them. Allison finds a flyer in Sarah's things with information about the agent's search. She offers to run away from Yorick so as not to be set up because of Sarah. But the guy refuses to betray his girlfriend, despite the fact that she is hiding something from them. In the evening, Roxanne gathers her community for some solemn event. At the very beginning, she tells the gathered about Lori, one of the participants of the movement, which Roxanne proudly calls the Amazons. At first, everything looks very innocent, but in the midst of the holiday, Hira and her companions begin to understand that something strange is happening here. Lori is first sprinkled with earth, then lowered into the bath, and when she appears on the surface, everyone starts calling the girl a new name, Athena. Having decided that all this is as strange as possible, Sam, Hira's trans friend, leaves the hall. One of the participants of the movement catches up with him to prevent him from conflicts with Roxanne, but the girl only creates problems for herself. She is called to talk. Jennifer reports that the search party has spotted Sarah and is preparing an ambush on her. The president begins to worry that the scouts will find her son. But at this moment, Allison still manages to persuade the guy to leave, and the couple hides in the forest. The tension increases. The searchers are trying to catch up with Yorick and Allison, but Sarah neutralizes the soldiers and destroys their radios, transmitting a signal to the White House. At night, Nora wakes up from the screams. Trying not to make a noise, the woman looks out of the room and sees how a crowd of Amazons educates the girl for talking to Sam. The smiling beauties turn out to be ruthless, but Nora decides not to interfere. The plane loses control and crashes in the Antarctic ice. Our days, a plane is arriving at the Amotsinskit polar base with former Assistant Federal Marshal Carrie Stetka, an experienced polar explorer. She plans to complete her business in Antarctica and retire from the Marshal Service, leave the continent with other employees during a fully before the polar night, which comes in a few days. At the base, she is greeted by an old friend, a Dr. John Fury. He complains that he won't see the chair anymore and says that he himself is not going to spend the winter. He plans to visit his granddaughter, which is, by the way, 5 years old. The base receives a message that a body has been found 500 kilometers away. Philadelphia, John and Carrie immediately go to the place to find out the details. When they get there, they find the body. It lies next to the famous rock. The first inspection. She showed that the man had a laceration on his leg, which was hastily sewn up. The deceased was killed by hitting him with an ice axe, although the murder weapon itself was not found nearby, of course. The body was badly mutilated, presumably due to a fall from a great height. The identity can only be established using an identification card. The victim's name was Anton Weiss. He was a geologist at the station, which is located nearby. Carrie crossed paths with him several times for work. The man specialized in searching for meteorites. The girl, I'm absolutely sure it was murder. After leaving the lab, the girl goes to McNauer, who tells that someone contacted him a few days ago asking about Weiss. Then the man did not attach much importance to this. Carrie is trying to get in touch with Delta Base to clarify why they asked them about Anton. The dispatcher interrupts her. He says, "Call me." An unknown person from the Vostok base is asking for her. The man introduces himself as Weiss's partner, John Mooney. He asks Carrie to come to the Russian station immediately, the East, where she will find the answers to all her questions. The man insists that the girl must be alone. Meanwhile, the weather is getting worse. A snowstorm is moving towards the base, which was predicted only in a few days. Dispatcher Rhonda raises all the pilots, informing them that they need to start evacuating people as soon as possible. Deciding that he was the only one who would agree to fly with her in this weather, Carrie turns to Delphi. Having prepared the plane, they fly to the Russian station. Arriving at the place, the girl inspects the base, because that's it. Its inhabitants had already been evacuated a long time ago. Carrie is sure Mooney is out there somewhere. She leaves Delphi in one building, and she makes her way through the storm to another. Looking around the room, the girl finds Mooney bleeding. He's still alive, trying to tell her something, but at that moment someone pounces on her from behind. A known man in a mask with a sledgehammer in his hands. He chases the fleeing Carrie, smashing everything in his path. She somehow manages to get to the neighbor's module, locking the killer outside. After being outside for a few minutes with her arms open, the girl, it freezes the limb. Leaning against the door, she loses consciousness. The girl wakes up in the living room. Delphi found her. He treated her hand and put her to bed. After hearing about the killer, the guy offers to go in search of her together. Returning to the module where Mooney was killed, the couple sees an unknown man near the body. Carrie points a gun at him, but he calms her down by showing her his ID. This is the agent, Robert Price, who arrived in Antarctica to investigate a possible illegal arms sale. The FBI informed him of the murder, the device, and he immediately went for a month. He was taken to the East a couple of hours ago. Together they go to the Delta One base, where they find a search map, which was used by the Mooney and Weiss group. Delphi finds several boxes of explosives, which confuses Carrie. After all, the expedition members had to look for meteorites on the surface. Once again, after looking at the map, the girl suggests going to that area, where the group ended their search. At first glance, there is nothing interesting at this point, just a snowy one. The plane, but soon the ice under the measles cracks. She falls into a tunnel drilled by meteorite seekers. She is followed by Delphi and Price. At the end of the tunnel, there is what the geologists were looking for, an old cargo plane. Getting on board Price and Carrie, the events that took place on board 50 years ago are being restored. The plane was carrying some very expensive cargo, but it crashed. Geologists entered the crashed plane and removed the cargo from it. Weiss suffered an accidental leg injury, which was stitched up on the spot. Choristo. Robert becomes convinced that the Weiss murders are not connected because 2 days ago someone contacted from this point with the blacklisted arms dealers. In the 50s, the Soviet Union mined the substance in these places, which was used by the nuclear industry. That's why the UN sent its agent. Crumbling ice blocks the exit from the plane. After spending several hours in the ice captivity, Robert manages to blow up the escape hatch, which opens them to the surface. Back at the base, Carrie finds Memorth talking, in which he asks for permission to evacuate everyone immediately. The man thinks they should leave the facility and close it for the winter, because two corpses have already been found at the neighboring base, and he has no intention of risking the lives of his people. Carrie perceives this as a lack of trust in her address. She brings up data on the pilots who took to the air that day when Vice's body was discovered. After all, during his examination, Dr. John found that the body was not frozen. This means that it was dropped no more than a day ago before it was discovered. The most suspicious thing is the fact that the data was deleted exactly for those days that the girl was interested in. Later, Carrie goes to see Dr. Fury. After examining her hand, John informs her that the tissues are too damaged. There is no way to save the fingers, and the only way out is to amputate them to prevent gangrene from spreading everywhere. The men successfully perform the operation, leaving Carrie to rest, to gain strength after experiencing stress. Robert comes to express his condolences. In response, a depressed Carrie tells how she ended up at this base. She worked in Miami with her partner and they took on a major drug dealer, who's been hunted for months. Eventually, the perpetrator attacked her when she managed to fight back. She realized that her partner was acting in concert with him. She killed him and decided that she needed to leave the service, since she couldn't see the traitor. Their conversation is interrupted by a message that the killer has appeared at the base. With the joint efforts of Carrie and Price, they neutralize him. During the interrogation, it turns out that the killer is a member of the rescue group, sent to help Vice wrestle Hay. An evacuation begins at the base, and Hayden manages to escape in the confusion. He attacks and seriously injures Delphi. A white haze, an Antarctic storm begins. Dr. John, Carrie, Delphi and Price miss the last opportunity to leave the base for winter. Hayden tries to escape using a private jet, but Carrie and Price stop him and the guy is killed by a storm. After they find the containers with the missing cargo, they discover the usual candies inside. That means Hayden had an accomplice, the true cargo, and most likely it was successfully evacuated. Carrie becomes suspicious and removes the bandage from her arm. In place of the fingers, she finds a seam identical to the one on Vice's leg. In the corpses John was working on, Carrie finds cargo, high-quality diamonds. She immediately goes to the doctor, who tells her how tired he is of his life. The last thing John asks is to go outside. He never goes back to look at the aurora borealis. 6 months. Delphi has regained consciousness and is bowling with Price, waiting for the end of winter to restore regular flights between the pole and the inhabited Earth. Carrie is in her office writing a second report with a request to withdraw a letter of resignation and transfer her somewhere warmer. And then he goes outside to look at the aurora borealis. The actress is just freaky, but in any movie she's just beautiful. And you have to say something about the movie. Well, the movie is good, yes. The movie is not bad. Such a good trailer, yes. Friends, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That's enough. Give it a thumbs up and, of course, write comments. Watch the best and exciting movies only for Volida. See you soon. Thanks for watching the video to the end. Like and subscribe for more interesting videos. Good luck!